Okay, we have a very serious problem in our world. In fact, we have a few that can be fixed. The one I'm going to refer to at the moment is the way that software and websites impact, or the way they're designed, and how that impacts upon people. When a person is using a tool of any description, it has to work as they want it to. Okay? And I'm going to try not to swear in this video, because when I swear in the video I have to rate it as only over 18s, so it just no one ever sees it, which is a pity. My point in this video is that if you are designing something for someone else to use, you're finished with it once it's designed and issued. That's it, it's done. What's happening now in software design, primarily, because web design is a different thing entirely. In software design, companies which issue software are now not releasing that software as a complete tool for the user to own and possess and control. They are keeping ownership of that tool. It's just the same as if you went to a tool shop and bought a spanner, and that spanner, despite you buying it, was never yours. So at any time, day or night, 24 hours a day, that company, that business that sold you the spanner could come into your house and take the spanner away, or do something with it, or replace it with something they thought was better. The problem with that is that is, I nearly swore then, that is extraordinarily invasive and rude, and it is extremely upsetting for someone and their sense of privacy and control. It's theft, it's invasion, and it's disgusting, and companies are just doing this as they wish now. Now, you might say, well, they can, but they never used to. When software was issued up till about, I don't know, say 2010 or thereabouts, it was yours. If you wanted to update or upgrade it, so be it. If an update was available, that's fine. But now companies have decided you don't matter, and that is an enormous problem. It is a massive problem, because it's exactly the same, and I'll draw this back to the political situation again. The idea that people don't matter, and that their freedom and their privacy and their independence don't matter, has to be completely done away with. And I will draw this back to what happened in 2000 and in the early 2000s, when my country's military was hijacked, and the American military was hijacked by people who were acting not in the interests of those countries, but were acting outside of the interests of those countries with their own agenda to invade countries in the Middle East. And we couldn't do a thing about it, because we were sat on our backsides. We didn't know what to do. Nobody had any power. And since that happened, it's infected every single institution, public or private, in the world. And so companies are like, well, if the guys running the show politically don't care about people's rights, why should we? And obviously no one in the political sphere is going to say anything about it, because they're frankly afraid. They're afraid because what was done was an enormous crime. And the problem is, when the person who's in charge commits the crime, well, you're not in charge, so you don't feel you can do anything about it. And that's what honor is about, and trust. And our trust worldwide has just been smashed to smithereens. It's been obliterated, and people are trying to function, but it's rotten. I said this in another video, it's rotten through. And it's rotten because the institutions that were built over centuries to govern and keep things in order were invaded and corrupted. And that's what happened in the early part of this new century. Everyone saw it happening. Everybody saw it happening. And no one felt they could do anything about it. And that's why nowadays you have computer companies who are just saying, well, we don't care what the customer wants anymore. We simply don't care. They can't do anything about it. We'll do what we want. And that infection it's infected everything. So whenever I use a software package now, I'm met with things that, for example, if I have Adobe on my computer, Adobe Acrobat, and I have Microsoft Word, Adobe Acrobat and Microsoft Word have somehow made an agreement whereby when a person has Adobe Acrobat on their computer, Microsoft Word will just implant PDF making elements that Adobe have created into their toolbars. Well, I'm sorry, don't do that. This is my software. You can ask me, but don't just go behind my back and do it as you wish. That's disgusting. That's like coming home one day and finding people in your house modifying your kitchen because someone else has decided it's better that way. No, how dare you? Get out of my house. This is the problem we've got now. Now, regarding web design, you could say, well, a web design is different because you don't take any ownership of the website. Yes, that's true. But the problem with web design at the moment is that similar problems exist, whereby there's no respect for the user at all. And there are no standards. Frankly, I'll draw this up into a bigger picture thing. There is no order in the world at the moment. No one's in charge because the people who are actually doing things are corrupt and crooked, and they shouldn't be in the positions they're in. And they have organised for weak, useless idiots to be in positions of apparent power so that people look at them and say, oh, well, that person's the person in charge. And it's obvious they're not in charge because every time they speak their own voice, they get fired. And look at the amount of prime ministers we've had in Britain, in England, in the last decade. It's absurd, it's unprecedented, and it is a direct result of the fact that crooks, that is criminals, have invaded our systems, and it's filtered down through everywhere. Yeah, through the media as well. All the films that have been released, the rise of the dark this, the dark that, the rise of this. These people have convinced themselves that they're part of some satanic agenda. Yeah, that they're part of something. It's awful what's happened. Everyone can see it. Everyone can see it, and it needs to be stopped. It needs to be stopped in its tracks because it is the cause of the problems I'm talking about. We need honour, we need decency. Yes, someone stole into the sensitive organs of government and abused them. And that crime has filtered through to everything. Congratulations to those people. What an achievement. They've committed the biggest crime ever. Well done to you. And everyone else is suffering. And this is the problem. This is why honour exists. And this is why corruption is damaging. Corruption just means rot. So this is the problem at the moment. Companies are producing things and then they have no respect for the customer at all. None. When I grew up, you could make complaints and the companies would listen. And in the last, and since the invasions of Iraq and Afghanistan, all of a sudden, if you made a complaint against a company, all of a sudden the staff were instructed, if someone makes a complaint to you, tell them they're being abusive and turn around and walk away. And that's another outgrowth of this problem. People have been made to feel completely powerless. And then you've got this COVID nonsense, where the same people who orchestrated the invasions of Iraq and Afghanistan, and if you don't think it's true, get your head out of wherever it is and get it straight and start thinking for yourself. Alright? The whole entire world was forced into a condition of submission, primarily to wearing stupid, ineffective masks, which didn't help anybody. It was all about psychological conditioning, because these guys won't stop, and they can't stop. They have committed their big crime, and they're like, well, we may as well carry on going. And they will go and go and go until they are stopped. And they're dangerous. Make no mistake about it. They're dangerous. But they're frightened. Most of all, they're frightened. And they did orchestrate this COVID thing as well. If you think it wasn't orchestrated, then answer me this, right? Why are there patents for that disease that were issued before it was released, right? Why was it first noted in a place called Wuhan, where the institution which created those patents was? It's a joke. The whole thing is a crime, okay? And people died because of it. Countries were ruined because of it. And national leaders who resisted what the imposition of worldwide pressures, they were killed. Look it up. So you can do one of two things. You can bury your head in the sand like a coward, or you can stand up and try and be part of the solution. And it takes guts and it takes courage. And it takes intelligence. You've got to think for yourself. So yeah, it starts off with, on the face of it, smaller things, but it's a big rot. And I'm tired of it. I'm tired of it. It's up to us in this world to create good things. It's up to us. Like they say, the only thing necessary for evil to succeed is for good men to do nothing. Well, I'm a good man. And there are other people like me. I want this world to function properly, and it takes work to make it function properly. And yes, other people employed their efforts to try and undermine it. I could deride them if I wanted to. It won't do any good. What will do good is actually doing good. And that doesn't mean pussyfooting around, doing just nicey things. It means organising situations which will work, which are strong. It's quite clear at the moment in my country, the appearance is no one's in charge, and those who are in charge shouldn't be in charge, if you know what I mean. You might say, well, they can't not be in charge and be in charge. Those who should be in charge, or who are made to appear as though they're in charge, aren't in charge. And no one knows where to turn. The country's falling to pieces around our ears. Everyone can see it. And it's because of this rot. And it needs to be fixed and changed. And if I have to lead, I'll happily lead. I don't care. We have to get this situation sorted out, not only in my country but worldwide. I watched it happen in my 20s. Alright? I'm now in my 40s. I watched it happen in my 20s and I could do nothing about it. I got very angry about it, but I could do nothing. I'm now in my 40s and I'm coming to the age where I'm able to do more things in this world. So this will be fixed, and I hope other people will help.